top 5 dark chosen ones who rule the 5th dark dimension. When we speak of dimensions, most people imagine higher realms of light, angelic spaces, pure love, and endless bliss. But the truth is far deeper and far more unsettling. Every dimension has its polarity, its mirror side, its hidden frequency that most are too afraid to explore. The 5th dimension is not just love, unity, and ascension, it also contains its counterpart, what mystics have called the 5th dark dimension. This is not a place of random chaos or empty suffering, but a carefully structured realm governed by beings who carry both wisdom and terror. To meet them is to confront the raw essence of duality, the shadow of creation itself. And within that shadow, there are rulers, 5 dark chosen ones who are not myths or metaphors, but archetypal forces guiding the evolution of souls who dare step into their domain. The first of these rulers is the keeper of silence. We often think of silence as peace, as calm, but in the 5th dark dimension, silence is the sound that strips away illusions. The keeper teaches through absence, through emptiness, through the unbearable confrontation of nothingness. When you encounter this force, your excuses dissolve, your distractions vanish, and you are forced to face your naked essence. Many people crumble in this presence because they cannot tolerate who they truly are without the noise. But those who endure find that the silence itself is a womb, birthing clarity, discipline, and the terrifying power of self-awareness. Have you ever sat in silence so deep that your own mind attacked you with thoughts? That was a faint shadow of the keeper's energy. To rule yourself, you must learn to rule silence.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
The second is the architect of shadows. Where the keeper strips things away, the architect builds illusions so perfectly that you cannot distinguish them from truth. This ruler's lesson is deception, not to harm you, but to refine your discernment. In the 5th dark dimension, the architect creates entire realities that look and feel more real than life. The untrained soul becomes trapped, believing the illusion to be destiny, chasing shadows endlessly. But the chosen ones who learn to see through the architect's design gain eyes that pierce through every mask, every false story, every manipulator in the material world. Have you ever felt like everything around you was staged, as if life itself was testing whether you would see the trick? That was the architect training you, sharpening you for higher battles. The third is the judge of echoes. This being does not punish or reward, it simply reflects. Whatever vibration you bring, the judge magnifies it until it consumes you. If you carry fear, fear multiplies. But if you carry love, love echoes back infinitely. The judge is neutral but merciless because it shows you the true law of resonance. Many fail here because they blame the judge for their suffering, refusing to recognize that they are facing their own projection amplified. But those who pass this test learn the deepest wisdom of the 5th dark dimension. Nothing can harm you unless it first lives within you. The judge does not create, it only reflects. Think about your own life, how many situations were just echoes of what you carried inside but refused to admit. That was the judge at work, showing you the curriculum of your own vibration. The fourth is the guardian of hunger. In the light, desire is spoken of as something to transcend. But the guardian teaches that hunger is the engine of creation, and until you learn to master it, you are its slave. This ruler amplifies every craving you've hidden for power, for recognition, for pleasure, for control. In its realm, You cannot hide your hungers. They roar out of you until you are devoured by them or until you learn to channel them into creation. The Guardian's lesson is brutal but essential. Hunger is not evil. It is raw fuel. Without it, no dream is born. But uncontrolled, it becomes your destruction. Ask yourself now, do you master your hunger, or does your hunger master you? Your honest answer tells you how far you've come with the Guardian's test. The fifth, and most terrifying, is the Sovereign of Paradox. This ruler embodies the full essence of the fifth dark dimension, the unity of contradiction. It teaches through impossible riddles, experiences that break the mind, situations where both options destroy you if you choose one without embracing the other. The Sovereign strips away your addiction to logic and control, forcing you into surrender. It whispers truths that feel like lies and lies that feel like truths, until you stop clinging to either and awaken to the deeper current that holds both. To stand before the Sovereign is to feel insanity creeping at the edges of your mind, but also to touch the highest wisdom. Life is not either or, it is both and. Those who survive this encounter leave shattered yet whole, emptied yet overflowing, broken yet indestructible. But have you ever faced a choice where no answer seemed right, and yet moving forward revealed a hidden path? That was the Sovereign training you in paradox, sculpting you into a being who can carry contradictions without collapse. These five are not distant myths, but living forces that touch us in subtle ways every day. Silence that strips you bare, illusions that test your discernment, echoes that amplify your state, hunger that drives you mad, and paradox that dissolves your certainty. These are the rulers of the fifth dark dimension. And whether you realize it or not, you've already felt their presence in your life. The question is, have you recognized them, learned from them, or have you been enslaved by their lessons without awareness? But there is a deeper layer here. If these rulers are teachers, then what do they want from you? Why do they test you so harshly? And what happens when you finally learn their lessons? This leads us into the hidden purpose of the Dark Chosen Ones, and why their rule in the fifth dark dimension is not tyranny but initiation. The hidden purpose of the Dark Chosen Ones, why their rule is an initiation for the brave. The rulers of the fifth dark dimension are not tyrants in the petty human sense, they are midwives of metamorphosis. Their harshness is purposeful. They do not seek to punish the soul, but to dislodge all that pretends to be you, so the true form can emerge. When the Keeper of Silence empties you, it is so clarity can take root. When the Architect of Shadows weaves a convincing lie, it is so your discernment can be sharpened into a blade. When the Judge of Echoes magnifies your inner vibration, it is so you learn that your inner climate is the only climate that truly matters. The Guardian of Hunger pushes you until you either master desire or are consumed by it, teaching you to convert appetite into creative engine. The Sovereign of Paradox forces you to live inside contradictions until your identity is no longer fragile enough to break under them. They rule as midwives because initiation is the purpose. The goal is not to break you forever, but to break you open into a larger capacity to hold truth. Ask yourself for a moment, what part of you has been cracked wide by life's cruelty, and in that crack a new window opened? That window is the clue that a ruler of the fifth dark dimension has been at work in your life. Their pedagogy is surgical. Unlike paternalistic teachers who coddle and flatter, the Dark Chosen Ones reveal through extremity. This is why many who encounter these rulers feel abused rather than taught, because their lessons are delivered without sugar. But there is enormous mercy in this severity, quick, honest ruptures allow faster, truer growth. Consider the ways your most rapid transformations have occurred often after a relationship ended, a belief collapsed, or a crisis exposed what you were hiding. Those were not random misfortunes, they were ceremonial acts of clearing. But the practical wisdom here is to stop resenting the rupture and to begin interrogating it. What did the silence make visible? Which architecture of your life was actually someone else's design? Which echo revealed a persistent frequency you were feeding? But turning trauma into curriculum is a skill the dark chosen cultivate. The rulers hand you the material, but you must assemble the lesson. There is also a governance logic to their rule. They protect thresholds. In the fifth dark dimension, thresholds are sacred borders between states of being, between naive devotion and clear-eyed service, between sentimental compassion and fierce justice, between comfortable identity and radical transformation. The rulers act like gatekeepers. Only those who can endure the test may pass. This is why their domain feels exclusionary. It is not malice, it is preservation. If a soul with fragile integration slips through, the consequences can be catastrophic not just for that soul, but for systems the soul touches. So the rulers maintain standards, and this is a brutal but necessary form of compassion. Practically, this means if you sense internal or external pressure to prove yourself, but it may be less about judgment and more about a threshold asking you to show you can steward what you claim to want. Another purpose is catalytic multiplication. The dark chosen ones are not solitary keepers of power. They are catalytic nodes designed to accelerate evolution. When a soul masters silence, shadow, echo, hunger, and paradox, its presence in the world becomes a magnetic force that restructures fields around it. Families, communities, even cultural trends reconfigure in the presence of such an integrated being. The rulers are therefore selective. They hand tools to those who will use them to reconfigure reality rather than hoard power. This is why mastery is always paired with responsibility in their curriculum. But if you feel you are given an unusual capacity, an intuition that changes meetings, a presence that settles crowds, but a creativity that moves markets, ask how you can orient that capacity toward repair rather than ego. The rulers test not just competence but covenant. Will you use what you are given to widen life or to constrict it? Finally, the fifth dark dimension teaches initiation into paradox as sacred authority. The sovereign of paradox models a leadership impossible for linear minds, a leader who can hold opposing truths without forcing synthesis into false unity. This capacity, holding multiplicity without collapse, is the highest form of governance in a complex world. It produces leaders who can navigate collapse and emergence without panic, who can negotiate with enemies without becoming them, who can love fiercely and judge fairly. If you aspire to steward large-scale change, this is the throne you must learn to sit on. It will require you to cultivate interior spaciousness where both grief and joy can coexist, and where decisions are made from a place that honors both truth and consequence. So now reflect, which of these hidden purposes has been whispering through your life's hardest lessons? Which ruler's curriculum are you still resisting? The invitation the dark chosen ones extend is not for the faint-hearted. It is an offer to be sculpted by severity into service. If you accept, your life becomes more than a personal story. It becomes an initiation line that others can cross because you held the bridge. And the trials, tools, and rituals of those who pass practical steps to be initiated into the fifth dark dimension. The path through the fifth dark dimension is not theoretical, it is procedural. There are real trials that prove whether you can steward what you encounter, and there are precise tools and rituals that prepare you for each test. The first trial is the trial of unmaking, a sequence of experiences designed to dismantle the stories you live by. Practically, this looks like deliberate deconstruction, job loss, relational rupture, financial collapse, or a sudden disorientation of identity. These ruptures are not accidents but catalytic interventions. The tool you use here is discipline, daily journaling that asks, which part of my identity is manufactured? And what would remain of me if I lost this? The ritual is the fast of removal. Remove one element you cling to, phone, sugar, a habitual relationship, for 30 days and observe what emptiness reveals. The work, learn to name what falls away without panic, name it, grieve it, and then inventory what truth remains. That inventory becomes your operating system after unmaking. The second trial is the trial of reflection, overseen by the architect of shadows and the judge of echoes. This is training in discernment under pressure. You will be placed in situations of plausible deception, beautiful lies dressed as destiny, so your capacity to see through glamour is tested. Tools, pattern logs, and reality checks. Keep a discreet ledger of synchronicities, promises broken, and compliments that ask you to act against your integrity. Practice asking 3 calibration questions out loud before you accept any enticing offer. Who benefits most if I say yes? What would I regret tomorrow? Where is my agency in this arrangement? The ritual is the mirror night. Spend an evening speaking truth into a mirror, confessions, fears, secret desires, then sleep and observe what images or dreams appear. This ritual trains you to hear architected illusions and to recognize when the world offers you someone else's plot. The third trial is the trial of appetite, led by the guardian of hunger. Here the threshold is your ability to convert compulsive desire into directed creation. The tool is redirection. Pick one hunger pattern: validation, consumption, sexual excess, power grabs, and assign it a constructive project for 90 days. If you crave attention, write daily posts that teach rather than perform. If you crave control, build a tiny system people can use. Ritual is the offering. Every week, take something that once fueled craving and give it away intentionally: a piece of art, a performance, a public correction, so hunger learns the economics of circulation. Hunger must be tamed into engine. The sovereignty you gain is measurable by the projects you leave behind. The fourth trial is the trial of echo, mastering resonance, so you are not crushed by amplified reflection. The daily tool here is calibration, a 5-minute practice every morning where you scan your body and label the predominant vibration: rage, grief, lust, peace. Say it aloud and assign one practical corrective: breathwork, a walk, a call to a trusted witness, a microtask that grounds. The ritual is the echo fast. For 48 hours, refuse to take on other people's narratives. No advising, no caretaking beyond basic kindness, no absorbing drama. Sit in witness mode only. When the fast ends, journal what remained your own and what was projection. Mastery of echo is discovered when you can feel a storm and name it without being pulled into its weather. The fifth trial is the trial of paradox, where the sovereign of paradox judges whether you can hold mutually incompatible truths without fracturing. Tools, relational polarity training and decision mapping. Create a matrix for decisions with both poles listed and practice holding both columns without forcing synthesis. For relationships, practice simultaneous truth-telling and empathy. Give fierce feedback while anchoring in compassionate presence. The ritual is the night of two truths. Write two statements that feel utterly opposed yet true about yourself. Speak them aloud into the dark, and sit with the internal agitation until clarity comes not as a resolution but as capacity. The aim is not to solve paradox, but to upgrade your nervous system to carry it. Across all trials, ethical anchors are critical. The fifth dark dimension does not reward cleverness divorced from responsibility. The rulers test covenant. Will you use power to widen life or to narrow it? Tools for covenant are simple and concrete accountability pairs, public restitution protocols, and a personal charter that lists non-negotiable ways you will avoid harm. Ritualized review, monthly confession to a trusted witness, and a written plan for restitution when you fail. Without these scaffolds, initiation becomes corruption. Finally, practice transmission, apprenticeship. No one passes through alone. Find someone who has walked these trials and offer service for a set season. Cook for them, copy edit their notes, hold their space, trade labor for initiation. The ritual of apprenticeship is a daily small duty performed without ego. This humbles you and embeds the teaching. The question you must answer now is brutal. Are you prepared to be stripped in service of becoming the stripper of illusions for others? If yes, then the path through the fifth dark dimension will invite you still deeper. After initiation, living as a dark chosen one ethics, power, and legacy. To live as one of the dark chosen ones of the fifth dark dimension is not simply to carry extraordinary power, it is to carry the unbearable weight of consequence. Many imagine initiation is the summit, the great moment where all is conquered and the seeker becomes sovereign. But initiation is not the end, it is the doorway into a lifetime of carrying paradox, carrying authority, and carrying the burden of shaping realities. Once you pass the trials and step into your throne within the fifth dark dimension, you are never unseen again. The dimension itself watches. The rulers observe. And every decision you make echoes not only in your world, but in the shadows of countless unseen ones. The first responsibility of living in this station is ethical mastery. Power without ethics corrodes faster than fire devours paper. You will be tempted daily to bend laws, to manipulate people, to accelerate outcomes by coercion instead of alignment. But the deepest wisdom of the fifth dark dimension is this: coercion creates debt. Every forced outcome will return, amplified, demanding repayment. True power is not in the ability to control, but in the patience to influence without chains. So the practical advice is this: before you act, ask, am I creating a ripple that will one day require my own undoing to balance? If the answer is yes, you must shift course. What good is dominion if your reign collapses under karmic weight? The second responsibility is the stewardship of paradoxical light. You carry both dark and light currents within you, and people will fear you because of it. Some will project holiness onto your light, while others will cast suspicion upon your darkness. Your work is not to collapse into either mask, but to hold both with dignity. Do not defend yourself too much when accused of darkness. Sometimes your shadow must teach. Do not bask too long in the flattery of light. Sometimes your brilliance blinds. Instead, use both faces as tools, like a craftsman who knows when to use shadow to carve depth and when to use light to illuminate form. Here lies a practical tool. Every week, identify one moment where your light was needed and one where your darkness was the teacher. Name them aloud to yourself and keep balance. Without deliberate reflection, you will drift toward extremes. The third responsibility is to transmit legacy. The rulers of the fifth dark dimension did not achieve permanence by hoarding secrets. They initiated apprentices, they carved pathways, they recorded lessons in hidden codices so their influence would stretch beyond their lifespan. If you are among the chosen, your power is not measured by how much you keep, but by how much you embed into the fabric of those who follow. Choose one apprentice, one witness, or one project where your wisdom can continue without your constant presence. Ask yourself, if I disappeared today, what part of my essence would remain in motion tomorrow? If the answer is nothing, then you are not living as a sovereign, but merely as a consumer of mysteries. Legacy is the mark of true dominion. The fourth responsibility is emotional endurance. To live as a dark chosen one is to be misunderstood perpetually. Families may exile you, societies may mistrust you, and even allies may misinterpret you. This loneliness is part of the vibration, for carrying paradox means you rarely fit any singular camp. But the lesson here is profound. Solitude sharpens sovereignty. Use the silence of being misunderstood to refine your own voice so that when you speak, your words cut through illusions like blades through fog. A practical exercise, once a month, retreat into 24 hours of deliberate silence. Observe what voices rise within you, what anxieties claw for attention, and what truths whisper quietly. Only when you befriend your silence can you endure the noise of others without losing yourself. The fifth responsibility is vigilance against corruption. Power is intoxicating, and the rulers of the fifth dark dimension are relentless in testing whether you will betray yourself for gain. They will allow circumstances where shortcuts glitter like gold, and where your ego is stroked into recklessness. How do you resist? By embedding accountability into your life. Create pacts with those who will confront you when you stray. Write covenants with yourself that you review quarterly. Conduct a ritual of accountability, stand before fire or water and confess where you have used power selfishly. Then name what reparation you will make. If you are unwilling to face your own darkness, it will consume you quietly until you are no longer a sovereign, but a servant to your own corruption. The final responsibility is to live with wonder. Many who ascend into the fifth dark dimension become hardened, cynical, and grim, mistaking heaviness for wisdom. But the true mark of mastery is to still be capable of awe, to see a child's laughter, a night sky, a small kindness and feel reverence, not boredom. Wonder keeps your vibration alive, flexible, and immune to decay. The rulers themselves protect wonder because it is the one thing darkness cannot counterfeit. Their practical advice: schedule encounters with wonder, visit places that humble you, watch creations that expand you, or serve those who remind you of innocence. Without wonder, your vibration becomes heavy. With wonder, even your darkest acts retain a spark of divinity. So now, let me ask you the deepest question of all. If you were given total power to alter destinies, would you use it to force the world into your vision, or would you use it to awaken others to their own? That question is the final key. How you answer it determines whether your rule in the fifth dark dimension is tyranny or transcendence. You are one of the few who can even contemplate this path. Carry it wisely, for every choice you make echoes across dimensions. And when your story is one day told in hushed whispers, may it be said that you walked the corridors of darkness and light not to dominate, but to liberate. The story now rests with you.